So what is happening with Toons? So make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. I just had an entire discussion with my friend group because we've all been kind of wondering, what's Konami gonna do with these new Toon cards coming out here? Because we all know that Toons are in a really weird place in terms of lore. Now, you've got to remember Pegasus, spoiler alert, Pegasus is like gone during the midsection of Yu-Gi-Oh! But in the anime in GX, Pegasus is still alive and actually hires Chumley to be a card designer for him in the story, which is kind of where you see a little bit of the deviation of the Toons, because this is where you see, in original Yu-Gi-Oh, there's only so many hypotheticals that you can do with Mai's Harpies, we have the Borreload for Keith, we have Red Eyes, Dark Magician, we have all these classics. There's not truly a lot of Toon monsters that we can get to, but we'll talk more about that, here in a second. And then now that, we've gone down the what if timeline here, there is the idea that, we could eventually see, an elemental hero Toon monster as well, because we've already done the Ancient Gear Golem, we've already done Cyber Dragon. When you're looking at where Toons are placed in the story, Jaden is really one of the very few that doesn't have one yet. So I'm kind of curious to know, where that what if rabbit hole is going to be. Because Jaden hasn't got one. Elemental Hero Neos, I truly think, would be the best one to go with. There's also the possibility that we could explore the extra deck mechanics of Fusion. And actually, that would give us, I know, time to start following the web of my thoughts. If we did explore extra deck Fusion with Toons, that not only would technically open up the door to do like some of Jaden's fusions, that would open up the door to bridging into Relinquished and Thousand Eyes Restrict, which has been a wild fan theory for a little while. Because as it stands right now, Pegasus's deck did two things. Pegasus was very Toon heavy, it was very, very strong in that regard, but once that game plan fell apart, he started switching on over to Relinquished and was relying on that stuff to be able to play the game. Now, with no effective bridge between these two, engines, how would you even begin to explore that? Enter Toon Relinquished. I was reading a little bit about this because I found a Reddit thread that was just full of interesting ideas. And Toon Relinquished was thrown around quite a lot by people. I'm not exactly shocked to see, that, but there, in terms of new support, there really should be a bridge or an effective means to create Thousand Eyes Restrict among the Toon stuff. So Jaden seems like a very popular candidate to receive a Toon monster within this block. I mean, we're already coming off of Toon monsters as it is, or coming off of, hero stuff. So I think it'd be a really cool homage to play with that. Now, Karibo. So going back to the classics here, a lot of people were talking about Karibo and Gaia the Fierce Knight are like the only real two OG monsters that you could really look at and give some consideration to. Now, Karibo, I that one seems probably the most realistic at this point, because like, how many archetypes out here have you seen that just pick a Karibo up and just shove it into the deck? Like, a Toon Karibo is not the most far-fetched thing in the world. I'm not exactly sure how you would go about building it into Toons, but I mean, that's a story to be, stepped away. I wouldn't be surprised if, just considering the trends of game design space with how much, Karibo is just like the mascot of this game, I would not be surprised to see a Karibo being tossed in somewhere along the way. So that's kind of like a no-brainer to me. Gaia, on the other hand, I don't actually hate the idea of seeing a Gaia the Fierce Knight, but like, I'd rather step away from, like, if you're going to do Karibo, then I don't really care about Gaia. If you're going to do Gaia, why didn't we do Karibo? Like, that's where I am with that concept. But, like, in terms of OG Yu-Gi-Oh!, we're really, really running out of tunable monsters. I guess they could do, like, Bones or, like, Gate Guardian, but, like, that doesn't really seem fun in, like, the design space, you know? So, now we got to talk about, what about his classic cards? You know, what about the Dark Rabbit, the Toon Alligator? A retrain of Toon Alligator to actually be playable also does seem very realistic, but also Dark Rabbit is one of those cards that was like, he's just a funny little bunny. You know, he didn't really do anything within the archetype. He just kind of existed. I would love to see, you know, not only, you know, new forms, but I would love to see some playable retrains on some of these classics. There's also Bakuri Box as well, but Bakuri Box checks the really weird interaction of, you know, are we going to give, you know, a Toon Fusion card to this deck to be able to play? I was also seeing a lot of people kind of talking about the idea of what if we give Pegasus a Link 1? A Link 1 that directly beams out Toon Kingdom for you to get set up. Now, I think the problem with this is Pegasus himself is, like, not really from the Link era. I think it'd be... I would personally love to see a card that places a field spell and can special summon a monster from the deck for Toons by passing summoning conditions. I understand that Toons have so many searchers. Alright, but, like, we truly need a value card that puts a body up on the field and gets us to a field spell to be able to get things set up. And if you don't think Toon Kingdom is good enough in the current era, you can always technically go retrain it. I'm not exactly sure if that's where we want to go with this, because that takes up one of the 7 slots. And I think OG Toon Kingdom is decent enough to kind of work with. As much as, like, a Link 1 that would be able to, you know, take any Toon monster and be able to start it would, in theory, kind of fix the issues, we just need an actual physical good start. You can give the deck as many searches as you want, you know. We can have as many Toon bookmarks, as many Toon, you know, page flips. We can have as many of those broken little interactions that we want. But, like, truly, the base of Toons needs something significant to be able to get it to establish, because that's always what Toons have been. Just a bunch of, like, watered down cards that got, like, good power-ups, but those power-ups weren't enough. There just wasn't enough of them in the last curve through of cards to give them something. So now the fact that you're trying to give them potentially 21 more cards, 7 times 3, does kind of, you know, get me a little bit excited for what we could try to do. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, there is the discussion of the Toon Egyptian gods. Toon Winged Dragon of Ra was demonstrated and fully a feasible concept to us during one of the character duels during the live stream way back in the day. I think you can still find that on my channel if you go back and watch. It's a crazy idea, but it is entirely possible that Konami actually revisits and prints this. Because coming off of Odeon, they've already proven to us that they can print new Winged Dragon or Raw support. Especially, you know, looking back at that chunk of stuff. The reality is, Raw could be made into a Toon monster. Though, under the what-if policy, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, because, like, you had the whole fake Winged Dragon or Raw fiasco, but then, like, you had the whole idea of, like, once a Toon monster's a Toon, it's going to listen to Pegasus. So, like, can you technically tame an Egyptian god and make it into a Toon monster? I am not entirely sure on that premise. It is highly likely as a scenario, but I'm not entirely too sold on it. So, TLDR, there's a lot of stupid things that we could actually see right now with Toons. a better anchor would be a start. The potential for, Jaden to get involved in the Toon world is an entirely crazy concept. But it's one that isn't like far-fetched at this point, because we already have Chumley, designing cards, and he could pay a homage to him. The Toon Egyptian gods have, or Toon Wing Dragon Ra rather, does have a chance of, existing now. And then, of course, on the opposite side of things, we have classic cards that do need to get retrains, like Dark Rabbit, Toon Alligator, because these cards deserve it. They're some of the coolest little things that we could have, and I honestly would be all up for that. But there's so much that we could do here. I don't even know where to start. I really think this should have been a 10 card overhaul instead of 7, but I guess we should be happy with what we're getting. So please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.